Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Inside the Five. It's Stav.
And it's Griff.
And we're in person. We're live here in New York City. Griff and I went to the semifinal in the final games of the Big East tournament. We're going to give you a full recap here in this episode. We saw UConn and Marquette.
Yep.
We saw Creighton and Xavier. We saw the final of Xavier and Marquette. Griff, what do you say?
Long weekend. Let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, here we are. The first time recording, first time going somewhere for the podcast. Yeah. So a bit of a big deal for us. First off, I do want to say a quick disclaimer. The Big East is the best conference in college basketball. You could say the SEC, but I'd call you a Southerner. You could say the Pac-12, but I mean, I'd laugh in your face.
Yeah.
No, it was always the Big East. But, I mean, what a weekend, stuff.
Yeah, what an absolute trip. Just wanted to start off by saying that I'm so happy we did this.
Yes.
This is essentially a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity where the stars aligned with our spring breaks being this week, and we took advantage of our opportunities. We had the opportunity, and we came to New York City. Great city overall, obviously. I mean, it was an excellent time. Logistics getting in were easy, and we made the most of our opportunity, to be honest. And I'm just so excited to talk about the first game that we saw.
Yeah,
between Marquette and UConn.
Yeah, and let's do it. I'm gonna say right away a game of the tournament.
Yeah,
it has to be. You know, I would put up maybe the St. John's game where they covered against Marquette, but I mean, you have to. It has to be this game. And other than the ending, I'd say the first 39 minutes and 40 seconds of this game was like just straight action, straight like just beautifully played basketball. Like it was awesome. It was back and forth. And I mean, at the end of the game, UConn doesn't call a timeout. Obviously, for everybody that watched knows it. Around 20 seconds left, they get the ball, right?
Yep.
20 or maybe 10, 15.
Yeah.
And no timeout off a rebound. And I just want to say this straight up. I don't mind that idea. I like letting the boys go after it off a rebound, get down there. You only need 2, send it into OT. But with that being said, there was nothing. And it was obvious that they didn't have really any look. With around 5 seconds left, you have to call a timeout.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even if you watch the replay, I think it's pretty self-evident and obvious when you realize UConn didn't have a shot.
Yeah.
Right? And if they called a timeout, you had an opportunity. They had a timeout to spend, right? They got the ball over half court around 7 seconds. No, they got it over around 10. There's a few dribbles. They passed the ball. And then it was just
they sent the double over. Marquette sent the double over on the the left wing if you're looking from the offensive side, and that was Jordan Hawkins who had the ball at that point. Which that's the person who has been on for them all season. Jordan Hawkins has been electric all season. That's who you want to have the ball in their hands at that point in time. But once again, when he's getting double teamed and we saw a replay later in the night last night where number 21, what's his name? The big guy was, reasonably open down low, but when you get double teamed and you're getting trapped, you can't make that pass down low that we saw. If anybody saw that clip of number 21, I feel bad forgetting his name. Where is it?
It's Sonogo, right?
Yeah, it's Sonogo. Adama Sonogo, excuse me. He was quite open, but that's, it's a tough play to make. And that was with around 3 seconds left. In my opinion, Stav, you have to call a timeout. And I would rather have 3 seconds, dead ball out of bounds. That's more than enough time to not only get the ball and shoot it, but get the ball and maybe take a quick dribble, maybe attack the basket even real quick with 3 seconds. You have a lot of options, a lot more options, in my opinion, when the ball is out of bounds, you can run a set play. There's a lot of different things you can do. And UConn, who I feel like has had answers to, challenges like this all season, just really didn't have it last night, and I mean a few guys from Marquette. Olmax Prosper had a good game. Who, I didn't. It says he started there, but I don't think he even started last night, right?
No, it was David Joplin who started because he was, or I don't know if he's.
I mean, David Joplin had a game. Though.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember who. I think you're right, though. I don't think Prosper started.
Because I saw him come in, and Olmax Prosper has been very good defensively all season, and he's been kind of like their defensive anchor all season. He guards bigs. He guards wings. I bet he could even guard guards. Mm-hmm. And I was confused because, he came in rather early, but I could have swore that he didn't start in that game.
Yeah, no, I don't really remember, but I kind of want to talk about what happened with UConn because originally it was a UConn crowd.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
MSG was sold out both nights, but for the first game that started at 6:30.
MSG was sold out every night of the tournament, or every single night for the tournament.
That's just awesome to see, first of all. And then second of all, this seemed like a UConn game. From the beginning of the game, UConn was up. I think they went up at one point 10 points or something in the first half. And then that lead dwindled down and they went into half tied. Mm-hmm. And then in the second half, Marquette kind of got out to a lead.
Yep. And
it seemed as if UConn was playing catch up for the entire second half. In the last 2.5 minutes of the game, nobody scored.
Yeah.
Which until the last bucket or the last free throws, I think.
No, there wasn't any free throws.
That's right. So no, the last 2.5 minutes,
nobody scored.
In general,
they finished 68,
which is crazy to say.
And I mean, even crazier to say that with the final score being 70-68, the under obviously still cashed, but if you finish a game with what's that? I'm not good at math, but 138 total points, and then you go out and say like, oh yeah, the last 3 minutes there just wasn't a bucket.
Yeah.
Which, that's not something you expect from Big East basketball.
It didn't feel like an under game at all.
No, it really
felt like it was a back and forth. I mean, it was a back and forth game. It was a 2-point game.
Yep.
And each bucket, especially in the second half, felt like it really mattered.
It really
like
did.
Every single bucket was hard earned. Both of these teams were battling, right? And really what separated this game, in my opinion, was how well Marquette beat the 2-3 zone.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
To start the second half, UConn came out in a 2-3 zone, and Marquette absolutely picked it apart. That's when David Joplin just absolutely went off. He hit 4 threes. All of them seemed to be in that second half in the corner.
And
right? The identical shot.
Did he finish perfect from behind the arc?
He missed one.
He missed his last one. He started 4 for 4, and he missed his last one. And it's just, he
got fouled on one too.
Yes, he did. But what I'm trying to say is Marquette, at the end of the day, if you really think about it, even though it was only a 2-point win, they kind of played the perfect game against UConn. They knew how to beat the 2-3 zone, and it's exactly the point. Bringing Joplin in for someone, I feel like he was rotating with Olmax Prosper, and Prosper is the defensive guy. Joplin is the shooter. Yes. And in this game, they needed shooting because UConn isn't a great defensive team. And it showed last night, and it's going to show in March because obviously they're still going to make the tournament. And Marquette has been a team, obviously Shaka Smart is their head coach, so that says enough about their defense. And, it was good. I mean, they had, at the end of the day, a great matchup where they could outplay them on defense without having to have like their defensive specialists in the game. It really opened up the shooting for them. And back to the 2-3 zone, if you can have your best shooters out there compared to, having to sacrifice some shooting for defense stuff, the 2-3 zone is, it's worthless.
And other than Joplin, Marquette was struggling from beyond the arc. And that's what kind of brought UConn back into that game in the second half. Because, like I said, Marquette went up around like 8 points, which in theory isn't really a lot in college basketball. But in this game, when it was essentially a chess match, every point mattered, like we were saying. And the guards, once UConn started fading closer to the corners instead of attacking the guards, that's when they started to make their run in the second half to come back into this game. And the inability of Marquette to hit the 3-ball from the guards. How many wide open opportunities did the wings get?
A lot.
And they missed a lot of opportunities. And that's what's that's what kept UConn in this game. It was Marquette's inability to shoot the three. They went 11 of 29, but I mean, they shot very similar percent. They shot a better percentage than UConn did, but they also shot more. It was one of those things where it seemed as if UConn got the stops when they needed to, but they couldn't capitalize on they couldn't score on Marquette's defense.
Exactly. And, that's a testament to Shaka Smart and the way that he's built this team to have a guard like Tyler Kolek, who leads the nation in assists, to be able to give it up to their bigs, to their wings. And not only does he lead the nation in assists, throughout pretty much the whole game, he was guarding Jordan Hawkins. And if you see his stat line, he finished with a 5 points. I mean, that's something that you don't expect Jordan Hawkins to finish with.
5 points, and one of them being a bank three in the first half to get him started. That was the first basket. That was
the first bucket, right?
And he only got one bucket ever since. He didn't even get to the line once.
And look at those shooting spreads.
Yeah, they didn't really shoot that well at all. I mean, you shoot 7 of 25 from beyond the arc. And Joey Calcaterra, he had so many open opportunities in the second half.
And he's a guy that comes off the bench, and in this game, Joey Calcaterra should have been the answer, in my opinion. And, like you said, 2 for 7 from the 3-point line. He's a kid where he is their shooter off the bench. He is their only shooter off the bench, to be honest. And they have bigs off the bench like Donovan Clingan, who's 7'1", who was starting earlier in the season and kind of fell off just because of how slow defensively he was. And I feel like that was really exposed, especially in the 2-3, where he's the big man in the middle when he came in. And, if he has to get pushed out to the free throw line, that opens up the baseline. If he's focused on the baseline, then the free throw line is wide open. And at 7'1" and having a big frame like that, he just really doesn't have the lateral speed to get from spot to spot. And it really, really, really hurt them, because the way that Marquette plays is you get the stop, you get out in transition. And when the other team scores, then right away they already have the ball over half court. They play a fast style of offense, and it really hurt UConn, because if UConn can't control the pace of a game, then they're toast.
Well, not that too, and the pace of the game really comes from the guards as well, and the guards of UConn did not play well.
Yeah,
they turned the ball over in crucial situations, and it seemed like they were just trying to force feed Sanogo down in the paint, when at times it wasn't there. Right, you got to have a good pass into the paint. That's what led to a lot of turnovers. It led to some offensive fouls, battling for loose balls, just stuff like that. It can't happen, especially out of your guards who you look to make these plays. And they just never really made the plays down the stretch. They never got the ball to the playmakers to make plays. And that's why he didn't score in the last 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, and I would probably say on the UConn side of the ball, Adama Sanogo was probably the player of the game.
Yep.
He was – hustling. The whole game, he was grabbing boards, he was getting down low. And I feel like kind of in the middle of the second half, they were kind of trying to force feed him a little bit too much. And that's kind of where Marquette started to, get back to where they were. And obviously they kept it close the whole time. But other than that, if I had to pick a player for UConn, I would probably say Alex Karaban. And he finished the game with 10 points, in an efficient 10 points. He played okay defense in the second half. In the first half was really when he was lost on that left wing, and that's where
Josper was hitting the threes.
Yes, exactly. He hit like 2 or 3 of those. Joplin. He hit 2 or 3 of those in a row, like possession after possession after possession, and Alex Karaban was just kind of lost in that 2-3, but he kind of figured it out in the second half. And like you said, they played some good defense, and they kind of stuck to making sure that corner 3 wasn't open. It did open up that wing 3, and that 2-3 zone. It just, as a Big East enthusiast, Stav, and Syracuse was in the Big East at one point, and as an ACC fan, the second best conference in college basketball, the ACC. You look at a team like Syracuse, who has a coach that, pretty much invented the 2-3 zone, because good friend of James Naismith, Jim Boeheim, shout out,
Yeah, retired.
Shout out
Or
Coach Boeheim.
Retired or forced out, kind of between that. They have respect for him, so they let him say that he's leaving on his own terms. But we all know he got fired.
He got fired, and after 47 years, you can't get fired. But moral of the story, what I'm trying to wrap my point around is you should know how to run a 2-3 zone if you're playing at UConn. And it just they didn't. They would trap the corner. The opposite side wing would be wide open.
Yep.
And they just couldn't make that like little rotation, that little triangular defense where the guy in the corner has to come up and shade that other wing, and then the guard on the other side has to come down. It's when you're talking about it, obviously it doesn't sound simple, but it is pretty.
But
simple.
they couldn't get the
2-3 zone. Exactly. So I mean, Marquette, obviously that is a big win because the 6th seed in the nation and going up against, I would say, the second best team in the conference, obviously not record wise, but national rankings wise, you got to go into a game. And even if you don't win this game by, 5-6 points, you still win this game by 2 points. It shows, what kind of team Marquette's going to be starting next week.
And not only that, UConn was going into this game favored by 4.5 points.
Yep.
Which is just in hindsight, it's surprising.
And we took them.
We can't
lie. It's on the Instagram, so
we didn't really have a great weekend of picks.
No, but the second game
we were right, and that's a good transition to go into. The game that started 9:00 Friday night, we had Xavier and Creighton, the battle of the 24th ranked team in the country in Creighton and the 15th seed in Xavier, and it's the same thing. Creighton was favored in this game, and shout out to you. You put me on Xavier, and I took Xavier in this game as well at plus odds, which was an absolute hit. This was never in doubt.
Well, my logic in this game, you're gonna hate me for the reason why I tried to talk you into this, because the reason why I picked it was, would I rather be a Musketeer or a Blue Jay?
We talked about that.
Yeah, and how many opportunities do you have to be a Musketeer?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was my original reasoning, but no, for real, Xavier played a great basketball game in this game, and it showed. They blew out Creighton by 22 points, and the shooting was there. They had this guard who I thought was Damian Lillard.
Yep.
And he was just shooting from everywhere. Does he lead their team in points? He scored 17 a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he most likely leads their team in points. He went nuclear at one point, and from there on out, they had full control of this game.
Yeah, 100%. First half, this game was over. They ended the half up 14. It was Xavier crowd.
Yeah.
Xavier's fan section the student section was awesome. That was a lot of fun to watch.
It was.
We'll get into the final game, but we ended up going down. We were honorary members of the Xavier fan section.
Yeah, even though I was wearing a UConn jersey at the time.
Yeah, and I was wearing my Georgetown Allen Iverson jersey, and I've never been ripped on more for wearing a jersey in my life.
People swore that you were on the team.
Yeah, some kid asked, he's pretending he was James Jones, Patrick Ewing, what happened? And I looked up and down and I realized that I'm Patrick Ewing, and I just got fired from my job at Georgetown. So I was sad about that. But yeah, the amount of times that I got shit on this weekend for wearing or just on Friday, because I didn't wear it again. But everyone was like, "Oh, damn, Georgetown! Hey, hopefully you guys are back next year." And blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm just a fan of the conference.
Just love the conference,
and hence me wearing a Big East basketball shirt and a Big East basketball hat.
Love the conference.
We're just fans of the conference. That's what we are. We are the #1 Big East podcast.
Yeah, no doubt.
Somebody prove me wrong.
But yeah, somebody show me another Big East podcast.
Yeah, exactly. You can't find one. And that's what that's what we do.
We
bring
podcast.
You Big East basketball content.
Yes, and I do want to say as well, we're obviously going to get back into this game. We got a little sidetracked, but through March Madness, those are the teams we're going to be looking at.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Our Big East boys, and especially, the team that won it all. But there's really not much to talk about in this game.
No, there isn't much other than
it was just Sully Boom the whole game.
He was nasty. He was doing everything.
He's from Oakland, California.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard is from Oakland, California. He is Damian Lillard. He wears number 0. Is he 6 foot flat? 6'3". He's going to the NBA.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
He's
been here forever, though.
He averaged 19 last year.
He's been good in college.
All 5 years.
Yeah.
No, I remember him last year because he dropped like 25 on UConn. But
just to wrap up what he did against Creighton, put up 23 points, had 6 assists and 5 rebounds on 41% shooting, 63% from beyond the arc. That's pretty damn good. And he played 37 minutes.
Yeah.
In a blowout.
Which
is kind of reasoning. Well, there's nothing else.
But it's kind of a testament to him. And I mean, if you look at his previous games, he was floating around the 37, 36 minutes. That's just his regular minutes. Like that's, what he's out there to do. And if you can have a player like that, and they have a few of those guys that go out there and they play hard.
Yeah.
They play hard. And I mean, it didn't really show against Marquette how good of a basketball team Xavier really is. And, what I'm scared about for this team, Stav, and the reason why you originally like Creighton was because of the day before where, they almost choked to DePaul.
Mm-hmm.
And
shout out to Paul. They had a good Big East tournament.
They did. Even though, you win a game in a tournament where you're really not expected to win a game.
You beat Seton Hall, who, to be honest, a lot of people thought could make some make some noise in this conference.
And I mean, it's just the inconsistencies of Xavier is what's going to scare me come tournament time. And, Selection Sunday is obviously going to be released by the time that this episode, maybe around like the same time that this episode comes out, because we got to fly back home Sunday afternoon. So, I'm nervous to kind of see where they float around, and having a loss of this manner to Marquette, and we'll move on to the final here, where they really didn't have anything. Mm-hmm. I'm really worried about how that's going to affect their ranking. And even though Xavier made it to the final, I wasn't in love with the way that they played.
No, the first half.
All tournament, to be honest. Even like yesterday, they had a great game, but DePaul gives them a tough battle in a game where the first half they're in control, and as they should be. And, you think they're just going to float past DePaul, as they should once again, and they don't. So that raises some eyebrows. You got to go out the next night, put on a show, and that's exactly what they did. And then, it's not about the night after a bad game. It's about the game after that game. And this was the final of the Big East tournament, which you win this game against Marquette. And, I mean, what are we talking? Are we talking maybe a 3 seed, maybe a 4 seed for Xavier?
Probably a 4 seed. I'm excited to fill out these brackets because let me get back on track what I was thinking of saying. Xavier right now, they'll probably be an 8-9 seed.
Yeah.
Maybe a little higher.
Maybe a 7.
Yeah. So that we'll have them in that little bracket of 7, 8, 9, right? But let's talk about the champions in Marquette.
That's why 6 was afraid of 7.
Marquette, are they going to be a 1 seed?
To be honest, Stav,
because Kansas lost today.
And you know what? I would still have Kansas as a 1, and I would have Texas as probably that top 2. But just the way that Marquette, they beat UConn, they move on to the final. And, we were saying this last night too, after the UConn Marquette game, like this should have been the final, respectfully. But to beat them and then have the game after where, that's kind of, you're setting yourself up for a tough loss to Xavier, in my opinion, after a tough UConn game. To go out there and do what they did that night, I honestly think that if they don't get a 1 seed, that's disrespectful. Yeah. I just, they're the 6th seed in the country. Selection Sunday is tomorrow. You see what they did in the Big East tournament. You see what Shaka Smart has done for this team only in his 2nd year. And I don't get why they wouldn't be a 1 seed. It doesn't make sense to me because, UCLA is playing right now, or Are they playing right now, or is it 11:30?
They're playing right now.
They're playing right now in a game against Arizona. Did you take Arizona?
Yes.
You did end up taking Arizona? What was the spread on that?
Arizona was favored by 1.5.
Oh, okay. That's not bad. So it's kind of a pick 'em. But you're gonna have to throw UCLA as a 1 seed.
Well, what if they lose? And with the injuries that they've had, that could derail them.
That is true.
Just for the committee.
That is true. But so with your reasoning, if UCLA is out, is Arizona a 1 seed? I still think Arizona would be a 2.
I think Arizona will be a 2, but I think this propels Marquette
into that 1 with
so it'd be
Alabama,
Houston, Purdue, and Marquette.
And I think that if Marquette doesn't get there, which I respectfully once again think that they should be, I think that they might still give that 1 seed to Kansas. Because you lose a game, and it was a bit of a bad loss score wise, but you're playing Texas, who's
also another top 10
7th team in the country, and what are they, the second or third team in
the conference,
quote unquote,
the best team in the conference,
the best conference as probably people. Maybe Joe Lunardi would say, but Joe Lunardi can stay in his cave.
Yeah,
it's the Big East.
It's tough just because we don't. How do you there's, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a good loss, right?
Okay. Yep.
How do you justify a team losing by 20 to a team that's ranked lower than them? Thanks, Siri.
Siri has your answer.
Yeah, Siri had my answer.
Siri was ready for that one.
And then just just not justify what Marquette has done throughout this entire tournament.
Exactly. It will be hard for Kansas to obtain that 1 seed, but the toughest part is going into this week, every single person and their mother was talking about how Kansas is like the unanimous best team in college basketball. So even with a conference tournament loss, the way that I'm not going to justify it this way because I agree with you, but the way that I think it would be justified by the committee would be the fact that it's the Big 12 tournament. They had a few good wins in the Big 12 tournament. They got all the way to the final.
Yeah.
Right. And they're in the final, and they're the number 1 team in the country. And obviously you lose with that magnitude, but they already made it all the way to the last step, and you're playing a game every day for 5 days straight.
Yeah.
So, that would be the best explanation for if they do get a 1 seed. But you're right. The 1 seed isn't guaranteed for them because Houston's going to get it. Houston's going to get a 1.
Alabama's going to get 1.
Purdue and Alabama are both going to get 1. And who does Alabama play in the SEC semifinal? Texas A&M. It's Texas A&M.
Yeah. And they've lost to A&M.
Yeah, but I still think I like Bama in this game.
Yeah, I do too. I think they'll win. But I think it's going to be a closer game than people anticipate. The Big Ten, I'm very, very interested to see how Penn State stack. If Penn State beats Purdue,
I think they can.
Where does Purdue go?
Okay, I want to preface this.
Then I think Kansas and Marquette are in.
I want to preface this by saying, I have no biases. But Purdue fucking sucks. Purdue sucks, dude. All they have is Zach Edey. He's like 7'5", and you could run circles around Zach Edey if you really wanted to. Give Purdue a 1 seed, and I think that they could lose to a 16 seed. I'm being super serious. I think that if anybody were to lose to a 16 seed, it would be Purdue. But if they lose to Penn State, Stav, I could see Kansas staying as a 1, Marquette moving down, because wouldn't you say this loss to Penn State is at least 2 times worse than Kansas losing to? I actually don't even think I would even say maybe a 3 or 4 point loss. I would say a loss in general.
A loss in general would be
because Texas is a damn good basketball team, and they're going to be a 2 seed.
Yes, exactly. Texas is going to be they're going to be a 2 seed, and Penn State's not even ranked right now.
They will be in the tournament, but
they'll be in the tournament, but they'll probably be around
maybe a 10 or 11.
Yeah, I have them as a 10 seed.
Maybe an 11. Maybe
exactly. Like
they might even be playing on that first day as a last four.
Yeah,
because there's just a lot of teams in the Big Ten, but Penn State getting all the way to the final does secure their spot.
Yeah.
It does secure their spot in
what if they win?
And if they win, it's
7 seed.
They could be a 6. They could be 5 or 6.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just because.
And we're just kind of rambling on.
Yeah.
But that's the best part about March. No one has a goddamn clue about what's going to happen.
No
and
clue.
This year especially, it's so open. I mean, we're gonna do our second we're gonna do the second annual IT5 bracket pick, and we have some different ideas of how we're going to do that, and I'm very excited for that. Selection Sunday is this Sunday, so and this is probably the first March Madness that just zero clue what's going to happen.
I mean, it's funny because this is probably the most invested I've been in college basketball. From the start of the season to the finish. I watched North Carolina opening night. I watched UConn opening night. I watched Marquette opening night. And I've been watching college basketball maybe 4 or 5 nights out of the week. And I've been preparing for this. And I kind of did that as a notion to try to get you a little bit more into it. Yes. And I think that worked.
100%.
And I think that college ball is really going to turn into our niche. And I agree. I mean, just, getting into it this year and onto like a different level, because we've had the pod for a few years now. And once it comes around conference tournament time, we talk about UNC, and obviously UNC is my favorite team in college basketball. Shout out to them. NIT, big NIT tournament coming up. But it's just this year, the investment that, the two of us have put into, just watching college basketball, talking about it on the pod. It obviously we're a football podcast.
Yeah. Through
and through.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I found like a different, like I guess you could say like a love for college ball. And I've been watching college ball all my life, but like with this March coming up, it's weird because I've had good brackets. I've had I've won, been first place in bracket challenges where there's over hundreds of people in it. This year, it's obviously the bracket hasn't came out, but I'm nervous for 2 versus 15. I'm nervous for 3 versus 14. I genuinely, starting in the first round, I don't know if I'm going to be 100% confident with every single game. I don't know. I mean, and even what I said about Purdue, and even what I said about, Houston, because I remember when I was like, okay,
first thing
I was like, Stav, we're going to get into college basketball, but the first thing is we're not going to talk about Houston.
And I think on the first episode that we did our college basketball preview after around the Super Bowl, we had a list of questions, and one of the questions was, who's a team that's really exceeding expectations that you expect to trail off, and Houston was on there. And I remember we were talking about teams like Kansas, Alabama, and we were talking about the Big 12 in general, and all of these teams have been consistent throughout.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like you brought up about 10 minutes ago how Purdue could lose to a 16 seed. I agree.
Yeah.
That's not surprising to me at all. And kind of going back to your point about if you're watching on the camera, you see that we're looking to our right. We have the World Baseball Classic up on the TV, USA versus Great Britain, 1776 all over again. But back to college basketball. I have a new appreciation for college basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched probably the most college basketball before the tournament in my life. And going to this tournament really opened my eyes. Really going to the Big East tournament, realizing how much people love college basketball. And just the people you meet, and how it's probably the most pure form of basketball.
It really is. And you brought up a point about sports betting, and obviously we talk about betting on the podcast. That's our thing. We have our lock of the week, and we have all these different things. And I love betting. I think it's a whole different avenue of sport where there's a whole different level of investment of emotionally and obviously financially. But going to the game, you're exactly right. Like, you go to a Celtics game, and I mean, I'm a diehard Celtics fan. My whole life, my favorite professional sports team ranking, number one, this is all time, my whole lifetime. Number one, the Red Sox. Number two, the Celtics. Number three, the Seattle Seahawks. And but basically what I'm trying to say, I can't go to a Celtics game without placing at least 4 or 5 different bets and making sure what I'm doing the whole game, especially during a regular season game. Because I mean, the postseason game we went to last year was nuts, and I probably had a few bets on that too, but I wasn't paying attention then. But a regular season game, I'm going and I'm paying attention to my bets, and we bet on these games as well. But being able to go there, and we were betting really just so we could kind of make it feel like we were fans of that team to and just going there and cheering and learning the different chants for each team
and little
sayings and doing them and walking around New York. You see someone with an Xavier hat on, you go zip them up, and they love it, they eat it up. It's obviously we know all about that from college football, and it's something that they talk about in college football, and they don't really talk about it a lot in college basketball. It's just, you're right, it's so pure. You go there, and both days we sat in the same section, and then the second day in the final we ended up moving. But at the beginning of the game, and then throughout both games yesterday, we were sitting in front of a group of, how old would you say they were? Maybe in their 60s?
60s, 70s.
Yeah. Maybe 4 or 5 of those guys, and we were just chatting it up. There was a couple of guys. One guy said that his grandson was at UConn. He's a UConn fan. One guy went to Providence. He goes to every Providence game. One guy, the Larry Bird guy, still have no idea.
So
he was up to
his brother-in-law, or what did he say? I don't know. Someone who his wife is related to invented the Big East.
That's right. That is what he said, which was awesome. I remember that.
And he was showing us pictures.
Or no, his wife's family grew up with that family.
Yes, something along those lines.
That's what it was.
And every year they go to the Big East tournament. Every year they go to the Final Four. They are great dudes to talk to, great guys.
And we were just having fun with them. We were obviously we were having fun. We were getting rowdy. We were yelling and stuff. And I mean, they were right there with us. And a bunch of Stav's 21, I'm 20. And it's if I go to a Celtics game and
it's not like that at all.
There's people in front of me, I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Fuck you guys. But you go to a Big East game, Big East obviously the greatest conference of all time. I've been to a few other games. I've been to a few ACC games. I've been to obviously a few cross conference games, and it's been like that every time. To be honest, you walk through the tunnels, and even you said with your Georgetown stuff, it wasn't people were mad at you. They're just talking. They're chatting shit. They're throwing out a couple of jokes, stuff like that. People were talking. Even today, there was a couple maybe in their again 60s, 70s, right next to us, and they were in our seats. And obviously, we don't care if they're in our seats. We just sat next to them, and he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about that. This is our first game in America."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Oh, where are you from?" He's like, "Oh, I'm from Holland." We talked before. Me and Stav moved seats because we had a couple friends at the game, so we had to go sit with them. And we were just talking. We were like, okay, well, that. I was telling them number 11, who was Tyler Kolek from Marquette, he's the guy to look out for. Number 0 from Xavier, which is Baum. That's the guy to look out for on this side. And he was like, "Oh, thank you." And then he was talking. I was like, "So have you ever been to a basketball game?" He's like, "Yeah." We have professional basketball, right down the street from where I'm at in Holland, but it's nothing like this. And the dude didn't even know it was college.
Yeah.
Because obviously they call it university or whatever. overseas. And so I was explaining to this guy, I was like, yeah, all these kids are in university. It just so happens that there's like 6'6", 6'7", and they get a lot of money off of school to play basketball here. He's like, I didn't even know these kids were in school.
Yeah.
Which was cool. And, I explained like the whole NIL thing in the simplest terms to him, because he was like, do they make money?
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, now they do.
That's a question that if you want to like sit down over a cup of coffee, I'll answer that question.
No, and it's such a lot. Everyone we talked to this weekend, just great people everywhere, right? Like everyone,
even in the streets, like not even at the Garden, like in the streets, you see someone wearing a Big East, like, or a team from the Big East. It could have been anyone. You say something to them, they say something back, or for the most part, people did.
Yeah, I mean, it's just college basketball especially at this point in the year, is the most pure form of basketball on the court with the players and off the court with the fans, right? Like we kind of got not sidetracked. We went on that little tangent, but we talk about sports betting, right? And sports betting as a whole has marketed sports in a whole different market, right? It's reached out to people who wouldn't give a fuck about sports, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like everyone genuinely cared about who was being played, and they genuinely cared about the product on the court, and they cared about it was awesome to be a part of. And we were talking about this on the way back when we were just walking around the area outside our hotel, and we want to make this like an annual thing.
Yeah.
And the Big East tournament, they sold out every single day. That's just a testament to the conference itself, how everyone just cares and everyone loves their team. And the atmosphere and the environment at Madison Square Garden was something I've never been a part of. And I've been to so many different games. I've been to Super Bowls. You've the same. We've been to playoff hockey games. We've been to playoff basketball games. It's just games. I just can't get that feeling out of my mind of UConn and Marquette to start the game and how that game ended. Just the vibe, the atmosphere was in Madison Square Garden was just unreal. And it's something that I will be dying to match again.
You went to the Eagles Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, as a Seahawks fan, I went to the one that they won. Thank God. That would have been a bad sign. That would have been I would have jumped off the 300s if that
I almost,
because I broke my phone. I smashed my phone on the ground when that play happened. But I would say like that to kind of like this is like the most simple word. Why am I blanking on it? To compare. Yeah, I can't believe it's been a long weekend. Yeah. To compare, the Super Bowl that I went to, especially with having it be my team, it was like a numb feeling. I don't know if that's the feeling you had, where it's like
it's an out of body experience.
You don't really you don't have the butterflies in your stomach because it doesn't feel real. Like it doesn't feel like you're actually there. But when you're at a Big East tournament final, it's like you take it all in, and everybody that's around you. And we were talking about where we were originally, but even when we were sitting with our friends, the people around us, like we're hearing what we're talking about, they were laughing, they were talking with us too. And it's just like such a good environment to be in. There wasn't, even like I'm rooting for Xavier. Oh, I'm rooting for Marquette. It's like, oh, nice. Yeah. Like let's root for our teams and let's watch some good basketball. That's all it was. Like I had my UConn jersey on last night, and there was a bunch of Marquette fans around us, and obviously there was a lot more UConn fans around us, but there wasn't really any beef. And I feel like every single game that I have ever been to, I have seen an argument.
Yes.
And I would say last night, there was like a little bit of bickering, but it was like all friendly, and it was all in good nature. And every single time you see somebody turn around, you see, especially in the Marquette UConn game, which just goes back to my point where that should have been the final.
I wish it was.
You would go a little back and forth. You would see like people kind of, snapping at each other. And then at the end of it, like it was a fist bump every time. Somebody was fist bumping, they were giving high fives, they were dapping each other up. It was like, I'm a fan of the Huskies. I'm a fan of the Golden Eagles. That's my squad. And I'm going to live and die by them. but it was just like, it was weird. It was just like a lot of like respect.
A lot of fun.
Yes.
Like when we go to the talk about gambling, the purity of the sport sometimes gets lost in that. This was just pure. And it was just a lot of fun to be a part of, just even when we entered Madison Square Garden for the first time, the two guys who were ahead of us, we were just chopping it up with them because you were wearing your UConn jersey. We were just talking about UConn, and everyone was just chanting, like they had the UConn chants going up the escalator, and it was just a lot of fun. And I mean, you and I don't go to these D1 big schools.
Yeah.
So to be a part of something like that was just so cool.
That's awesome.
And it makes me kind of look back and be like, damn, I wish I made some different decisions to get to a certain school or whatever.
Yeah,
but hey, experiencing it the way we did was just a lot of fun. And this was a great weekend. And I'm glad we got to do this.
And shout out, wrapping up the episode. Shout out KP. You know who you are. Shout out for you picking us up at the airport and coming to the game.
Yep.
And offering to, show us around, take us out. That didn't end up happening because we came back to record and all that. But shout out you.
I appreciate that as well.
Right. And I mean, I'm taking us into his crib, obviously. I mean, I've known him forever, so that's something I'd expect. But, I mean, like, I don't think I would do anything differently about this weekend. I think this weekend went perfectly.
I agree. I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was just a lot. Everything went smoothly. I'm glad we did this, and I hope we can make this an annual tradition. We're basically New Yorkers now. We're basically residents of New York City. Side note. The first day we would use Apple Maps to kind of get around. After that, we didn't have to use it.
We didn't use maps.
Today, Times Square, we found our way everywhere.
We didn't even use maps. We went to the MLB store. Saw where's the jersey?
Got it right on the bed. Ignore the stain, but I got the Mike Trout Team USA jersey. We did we got a lot of shit.
A lot of purchases today. Yeah. But we went to the MLB store. We went to the NBA store. We went to Nike. Mm-hmm. We went to all these different places.
JD Sports
JD Sports was awesome. Yeah. JD Sports I got a few things from JD Sports. Mm-hmm. But it was cool. It was like, it's always fun to find yourself in New York and get lost in a place like that. And you live in Boston right now. Yeah. I do it sometimes in Boston when I'm there. Obviously, I don't know my way around the city perfectly, but New York's a whole different beast where, like, I mean, every borough is like the size of Boston.
Yeah,
exactly. What, 6 boroughs, 5 boroughs? I don't even know how many boroughs there are. But yeah, I mean, New York is 99% perfect. If I could take one thing out of New York, it would be the New York Yankees.
Yeah, I agree. Fuck the Yankees. Fuck the Yankees throughout. And I hate giving credit to them, but we saw the most clean Yankees hat. And it's like, we're not buying it. We can't buy it.
I couldn't.
No.
I did pick it up.
But it was a snapback, so we have more justification too. However, fuck the Yankees throughout. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Just fuck the Yankees.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yep.
Overall, a great weekend, and the best part is, Stav, conference tournament time is done, but now it's time for madness.
Yeah.
And, right after we have, I mean, this is really the heat of the NFL offseason, because I guess you could say this is our offseason for the podcast. But we have this run, Stav, where now I'm going to need to get you into golf, because it goes March Madness starting this week, ending in the middle of April. And right after that, on Thursday, we will be in Augusta.
Yep.
We will not physically be in Augusta.
I mean, you never know.
I will emotionally be in Augusta. I've been watching golf since the start of the season. Big golf fan. But right after that, it's MLB, and we got a lot to talk about our Red Sox, especially once the World Baseball Classic comes to an end and we get back to full strength. And we're gonna have a lot to talk about. Even about the World Baseball Classic, but we're going to save that for another time, obviously. But, hopefully you guys tune in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and some of y'all saw our Instagram stories and some of our tweets, just having fun. That's what it's all about. I mean, it's the whole thing, I mean, like we said, it was a lot of fun to be in this environment, but it's not just this environment. It's, when I'm firing off tweets about, college basketball, when we're putting up things on Instagram, it's just like, I don't know. It's the pureness of it. It's a lot of fun, but
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And please stay tuned because we're gonna have a shit ton of content coming your way.
Definitely.
Like this, although we like we said, we're a football podcast, but March Madness, we have our bracket selection. NFL free agency starts Monday.
Yes.
Which is absolutely nuts.
Sure.
NBA playoffs is coming up. Like you said, the Masters. There's just hockey. We're branching out into every single possible market. If this is your one-stop shop for all of your sporting needs.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time to wrap up the episode. And it's funny because before the episode, me and Stav were like, how long do we want this episode to be? We were kind of itching around that 30 to 40 minute mark. We're stretching out a little bit to an hour, and it was just, I mean, we ramble off on the pod a lot.
Yeah.
And we do it a lot in football, but I mean, I'm gonna say it. This is episode 170. This is probably my favorite episode.
Yeah, 100%. And there's so much that kind of went on behind the scenes that we won't talk about. But like to get to where we are right now as a pod in New York City, talking about Big East basketball after we attended the semifinals and finals. If you told me this a year ago, I would have called you crazy.
And doing something like this is like motivating. It's like, obviously we're not getting paid to be here and go to the Big East tournament, but it's like, it's the feeling like, we're in like a little hotel room. We got our setup and we got our camera here. We brought our laptop, iPad. Yeah. It's motivating. It's like something that like I think of, and once we were setting it up, it was like, this is pretty cool. It's something different that we haven't done. And it's like you said, you want to make this an annual thing. It's motivating to me because like, I want to be able to do this.
Yes.
I want to be able to come back here, and obviously like who knows where the road takes us, but this is kind of, I feel like, a spark I haven't felt. And I've been doing this for 3 years. Stav's been around for about a year now, a little bit over a year now. But I don't know. I mean, this is
but the more and more we've talked about it, it's like, all right, we wanted to wrap up, but the kind of thing I wanted to leave off on, it's like, you don't realize how much fun and how good of a time you're having when you're in it. You only realize it after the fact.
And you know what? This is why we started the podcast. It was to, once we got to school, it was to be able, twice a week to just talk and, have fun and be able to talk about the games that we love to watch and we love to talk about. And it's just like you're right, being able, especially right here, right now, we got to really ingest what this whole weekend was. Yeah. And it was
new perspective on college basketball for me.
Whole new perspective on college basketball, and honestly, a whole new perspective on Inside the Five.
100%.
With that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this as much as we did, because we had a ball.
Yeah.
But
a lot of fun.
Like I said, Selection Sunday, big stuff coming. Later this week, we'll have our second annual Inside the Five March Madness bracket breakdown. That's what we're calling it.
Yeah, we'll call it the IT5
bracket breakdown.
MMBB.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. No, but we got a lot of stuff in the works, and we hope you guys enjoyed, because we're going to be shifting into a different gear starting right now. I've said it like 15 times, but I hope you guys enjoyed, because we very much so did. We're checking out from New York. We will see you guys back in the beautiful state, the beautiful Bay State of Massachusetts. Love you guys. Love you, Stav.
Yeah.
And we will catch you guys later in the week.
It's all love. Peace.